DeMeco Ryans just has a way to resonate with his football team. You know, we on CJ Stroud, the passing game, but Joe Mixon came in there and he's given them balance. He gave him a degree of toughness today that DeMeco Ryans appreciates.
Man, it looks like a fun team to be on.
Yeah.
How often do you get two guys join your team and then the first game of the season they ball out?
CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans offense looked as strong as ever after their debut win with their new look offense, defeating the Indianapolis Colts 29-27 on Sunday. As we all know, the Houston Texans made some nice moves during the offseason, continuing to build around their franchise quarterback CJ Stroud as they pursue a Super Bowl in his second season. But before we get into the video though, if you're a Houston Texans fan, please be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, as it really helps the channel out. It only takes 5 seconds and it's free. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I will be posting more Houston Texans videos throughout the season, and turn on that notification bell so you know exactly when I post. Now, let's get into the video. Many of us wanted to get our first look of the Houston Texans and their revamped offense, and all I can say after watching the first game is the NFL better watch out because this team is absolutely loaded. Out of all the moves they made during the offseason, the two most notable acquisitions were running back Joe Mixon and wide receiver Stefondiggs. Both players were acquired via trade from the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. Considering what they gave up for both of these elite players, I'd say capital well spent. The Texans only gave up a 7th round pick in the 2024 draft for the 28-year-old back and a 2nd round pick from the Vikings for the 30-year-old wide receiver. Two low risk but high reward deals in my opinion, and I really just want to focus on the offense in this video because I think we can all agree that this was the side of the ball that we were more anxious to see coming into week 1. Let's start with CJ Stroud, of course, because he's the engine of all this. Stroud finished the game with 234 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, also completing 75% of his passes, which is absolutely insane. He continues to show us why he's a franchise quarterback, and having him drop to number 2 in the 2023 draft was like Christmas coming early. Like, imagine if the Carolina Panthers would have drafted him with the number 1 overall pick. It would have been very likely that the Texans would have went with Bryce Young, who continues to struggle in his 2nd year. I don't want to make this a CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young video, but that just had to be said because it could have been a real possibility. Joe Mixon had a very stellar game, showing what he can provide to this offense, which is a power runner who is also a legitimate 3-down running back. Mixon finished the game with 30 carries, 159 yards on the ground, averaging 5.3 yards per carry and a touchdown. He also caught 3 balls for 19 more yards. After the Bengals went out and paid Joe Burrow top of the dollar quarterback money, it was clear that the Bengals had to make some very tough decisions if they wanted to preserve the cap. Well, did you guys know that they were on the verge of actually cutting Mixon, and the Texans came out and said, you know what, we'll take him. They even extended him after the trade, giving him a 3-year, $25 million deal to lock him up for the foreseeable future. Overall, I think Mixon can provide this Texans team an extra dimension in the running back room that they just didn't have before with Dameon Pierce or Devin Singletary. Look, this wide receiver room is now one of the league's best because they have 3 guys now with big play capabilities in Stefon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. Stefon Diggs also had a nice game in his Texans debut, finishing the game with 6 catches, 33 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Diggs just being on the field all year will help free up coverage from the other guys I just named, and his veteran savviness will only help the receiver room grow as a whole throughout this season. It's great to also see that he's shown to have great chemistry already with his fellow receivers. Nico Collins had a big game, finishing with 6 catches as well and 117 yards. He also caught a 55-yard bomb from Stroud during the second quarter of this game, which was absolutely amazing. The Texans have already shown their faith in him after extending Collins this offseason to a 3-year, $72 million contract. Whether or not Stefon Diggs chooses to stick around next season, it's safe to say that Stroud will at least have his go-to guy for the foreseeable future, and I'm honestly proud of Nico because he didn't look like this when Davis Mills was throwing him the ball, so I think it's safe to say that he was that guy all along. Tank Dell, who had a pretty quiet game, only caught 2 balls for 19 yards, but we all know what he's capable of doing. This is a guy who has huge big playability, and I'm sure they will feature him a little bit more in their coming game against the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football. I do want to touch on the offensive line just a little bit because CJ was sacked 4 times, and I believe compared to last year's performance, this unit could perform a lot better. I'm sure they'll go back and watch film and see how they can correct some things, but that was one of the most underrated units last year as they protected Stroud fairly well. Obviously, they did great when it came to run blocking, especially in the fourth quarter when the Texans rushed for 86 yards in the final quarter alone. Stefon Diggs even said this after the game: "You got to give the O-line its credit. The skilled players get all the hoopla, we got the celebrations and all that, but the game is won up front. Play on the line of scrimmage is huge, so our O-line dropped their nuts when they had to. It's just a game changer when you can run the ball with 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left, get those big first downs, and ain't got to put the ball in the air. You're on to something." Overall, I think the NFL is up for a rude awakening with this new Texans team, especially the offense. As long as everybody stays healthy, I believe this team can be serious Super Bowl contenders, and the craziest thing is they only have a second-year quarterback. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. Also, let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about Sunday's game and whether you think the Texans are true Super Bowl contenders or not. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.